A regular question that comes up is, how do you maintain this lifestyle once you've successfully been on it? At a recent update interview I did with Meredith, she shares loads of tips and suggestions of how to maintain it and how to keep on this lifestyle. Hi, welcome back to the Primal Lifestyle, and we've got an update video this time with the fantastic Meredith. Meredith, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back, Carl. Nice to see you again.
Well, I thought it was a brilliant interview we did before, and we covered quite a scope of topics and all that around this. So, firstly and foremost, hope all's well with you. And, in terms of an update, before we go into some areas we forgot to cover last time, how are you and how are things with you?
Everything's been great. Not a whole lot to update health-wise. Everything's still the same. I have seen my primary and I'm very healthy. The diet and lifestyle is still working out very well for me. And for anyone that didn't watch before, I am 52 years old. I have been keto and ketovore. I'm going into my 8th year, but I'm going into my 2nd year as primarily meat-based. Some might call it carnivore, but the real carnivore purists would probably not agree with that because I'm not 100% meat-based. I do eat other things on occasion, but I eat probably 90 to 95% protein in my diet, occasionally adding in other things. And so that's where I am now history-wise. I did start this diet primarily for health reasons, and I did cover a lot of that in the first time we met. But the great side effect, so to speak, was that I did lose a lot of the extra weight and inflammation that I carried, and it has allowed me to just become more physically fit, focus more on weight building and just building up as a 52-year-old, postmenopausal female. It's very important to just build up muscle, to learn how to do that correctly, and to develop a really good exercise routine, as well as staying with a nutrition routine and sticking to that and just being very consistent with it. So all those things are important, which I'm continuing to do, and to try to build up more muscle. So those are kind of my newer areas of interest for myself, health-wise.
So basically, you're a primal diet as opposed to a carnivore diet, because, as you say, people do get a bit precious about labels and what the foods are as such. So
They do.
Good for you. So on that front, obviously, since we last met, we've become friends. I've seen you on Facebook, and I noticed that you've got quite an active social life. So one area I'd like to discuss with you is, someone like yourself that's, got an active social life. You travel across the states to various locations, etc. How do you maintain this primal diet in those sort of circumstances?
That's a really good question. And that's one that I hear a lot on, various sites and pages. It's usually one of the trickiest things for people, especially starting out. But I think that as long as you think of foods in a whole food context, and you realize that there are some foods that are difficult to, adulterate, so to speak, and you're not shy about going out, if you go to a restaurant, just asking what they put either in a marinade, or if they use sugar if they use sugar to season things. My go-tos are really just a really nice piece of steak. If I go out, that's usually what I have. I'll ask them to only use real butter with that. And if there is any kind of seasonings, I'll just make sure that there's no sugar in it. And I will inquire about those things. You usually are okay with ordering ground beef or like a cheeseburger. I'd stick to just hard cheeses like a cheddar, just that are real food cheeses if you're going to have a burger. And I'll just ask for, lettuce, or sometimes just by itself. So, your options can be limited. Or if it's seafood, same thing, just making sure that they don't, use seed oils, asking what they cook with. If seed oils slip through, it's going to happen. But those are the kinds of things you have to ask. You can't be shy to ask about them. And then I either will sometimes have a vegetable with anything I eat out, sometimes not. And then just definitely say, please don't put anything else on my plate that I don't want to eat, like potatoes or rice. I don't eat those things or any kind of starches. And I'll ask, don't bring the bread basket to the table.
So
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 that's actually number one. Please do not put the bread basket on the table.
so right, okay, that's a good. So it's that avoiding the temptation as well, then, as well as being disciplined, then.
Yes. And as far as alcohol, if you're starting this type of diet primarily for weight loss, the best thing to do is avoid alcohol completely. I'm not in that phase of weight loss. I'm just in a maintenance phase. So I will allow myself. I went out last night and I had tequila. Tequila is really probably the best option. I'll have tequila, soda water, and that's usually what I'll drink. I'll have one of those if I'm going to drink. I try, to minimize that and not, have too much, because another thing that happens with this type of diet is the impact is pretty quick and swift if you imbibe too much, because you don't have a lot of, you don't have a lot to absorb if you're primarily eating meat. So you do
Mm.
have to be careful in that sense. But best to avoid if you're in a strict weight loss. But if you do, even vodka is okay. Clear alcohols. The thing that it does do is your body will burn that first, and then it'll go into like a fat burning mode. So your body does burn the alcohols first.
Yeah,
You know,
if I have a drink, so like you, I'm in the maintenance sort of zone. That I tend to have a gin Ricky, which is gin and soda water with a splash of lime or whatever. And
yeah.
I find that's more than. But quite often, I offer to drive, so therefore I can't drink because I'm driving. So therefore, and people don't seem to worry about it then, because if they see you driving, that's not the issue.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Gin is also an okay option as well.
women's ruin, though, they've got to be warned.
Mhm.
So in terms of more in a general state, then in terms of foods, because one of the things I often get asked is, well, tell me what your week of food is, what it is you have. So I'd be interested in getting your point of view on that.
So I thought I would kind of gather a list of things that I always have on hand, because that's a good starting point. Food preparation is really important in being consistent. So things that I always have on hand are, all the proteins, of course. I do eat seafood, so I'll have shrimp on hand. I'll have frozen uncooked shrimp that I'll thaw and use for recipes. Eggs, I always will have a few dozen eggs on hand. I might hard boil some, and I'll just prepare the other ones however I feel like preparing them. I'll always have chicken thighs on hand. It's a good, inexpensive option of a poultry to have on hand. And it's also a fattier form of chicken, which is good because you want that. You need that for energy. You need the fat. So chicken thighs with skin on, I have those on hand. I'll have many different kinds of cheeses, especially hard cheeses, cheddar, cottage cheese I'll have on hand. It's very versatile. And cream cheese I have on hand. And then I'll have berries. Berries is kind of like my sweet treat. I'll have like blueberries, strawberries. And then occasionally, if I am craving something sweet, I'll have, berries with heavy cream. Heavy cream is another thing I'll have on hand. And then all the important fats. And I wanted to kind of give a couple of examples. I do always have butter on hand, but I also have, this is beef tallow, which is also a great thing to cook with. And this is also the world's best moisturizer. It sounds weird, but it really is. I
So
switched from coconut oil
literally
moisturizer to,
just put it on your skin.
yes. Yeah, you can use it,
Wow.
yeah, anywhere, including your face. And they say it's bioavailable. It came from a mammal, where mammals, our skin can adjust to this, and it's considered non-communogenic, which means it's not pore clogging. So yeah, this I have on hand. This you can cook with, and it's moisturizer. I always
Wow.
have olive oil spritz on hand. It's really, I prefer to cook with butter, but if I'm going to crisp something like in the air fryer, I'll have olive oil. You can get these on Amazon. And so for other fats, oh, this is very cool and old fashioned. This is just where I keep my bacon drippings. And this is another option to cook with. I would not slather this on my body like beef tallow, but this is just good to keep your drippings in it for cooking. And, this is what I'm sure my great grandmother and grandmother did as well. So this is, classic.
So the tallow you would use, the bacon grease you wouldn't use, yeah?
Just not for moisturizer. But the
That's
tallow,
what I meant. Sorry.
yeah, the tallow, it has a very light scent. It smells a little bit like Crisco, but it's not strong. And a lot of people will put like essential oils with it if they're going to use it as a moisturizer. But I highly recommend this. It actually keeps your skin moisturized all day if you use it in the morning, which
Okay, that's
is
definitely
great.
good because I did do an interview with another lady that was talking about beef tallow, but never got into enough detail to understand what she was doing. So that's really interesting. That's really good. So obviously, just to warn people, not to use the bacon grease and don't get it in your ears because otherwise all you'll hear is crackling. Sorry, that's an old joke.
And some other ingredients I wanted to talk about, which some people might not consider normally. This is pork panko. So this is basically pork rinds, which is a great carnivore snack. And so these are good to snack on if you need something crunchy. A lot of people use these in recipes by themselves, but this is a brand that I've found that you can bread. You can bread chicken with this. I've breaded seafood with this. So I've breaded scallops, shrimp, and then just cook them in the air fryer. And this is great. I highly recommend this.
Yeah.
This you can pretty much buy in any Whole Food type store. Even Amazon carries a couple of different brands of this. This is just crushed pork rinds and salt. That's all it is. There's no other strange ingredients in it, just pork rinds and salt. And that's what you want to get in the habit of doing, is just reading the ingredients list and making sure they're not adding anything unnecessary, because that happens all the time. You think it's something healthy, you look at it. Most brands of nuts as well will have seed oils. So if it's a snack nut, peanuts, almonds, if you allow yourself to eat those, always check, because seed oils are inflammatory and it just really defeats the purpose of trying to get away from anything inflammatory, which to me is one of the most important things about eating a meat-based diet, is reducing inflammation.
Well, it's actually because I have used a similar product for when I make Scotch eggs. So I'd have a soft hard boiled egg wrapped in well, mince, we would call it. You call it ground beef, and then egg white. Roll it in the thing, and then you've got the basis of a Scotch egg, which is quite a well-known UK-based product. So they're ideal for that. But I hadn't thought about doing chicken and things like that, so I might give that a go. So I've discovered air fry, and I'm oh my god, chicken wings in the air fryer are just unreal.
That really, to me,
God.
the best way to make chicken wings, which also is something I try to always have on hand, is chicken wings. So yeah, chicken with skin. I mean, you can definitely have boneless, skinless chicken breast on hand, but if you do, I would recommend coating it in this, because this adds healthy fat as well, which it's pretty lean. Boneless, skinless chicken breast is very lean. It may not just fill you up enough. So I probably would coat that if I had boneless, skinless. And another thing I wanted to talk about were, if you are in a situation or an occasion where you want to have some type of treat. And for me, this is very, very occasionally. It's like Thanksgiving, maybe my birthday, maybe if, someone in my family's birthday, Christmas, occasions. If you're going to be around sweet things and you want something there that you can actually eat, some ingredients that are important to have. And I will, like I said, this is very occasionally, is I will make baked goods, and this is the sweetener that I prefer. It's monk fruit. So this is, in place of a sugar. Or you can make baked goods out of like grass-fed protein powder. So this is something that I would have on hand. And for a thickener, so like any kind of gravy or anything you need to, any sauce that you want to thicken, this is okay to use. It's only xanthan gum, and it's just a little goes a long way. So if you're gonna use drippings to make a gravy, this is really good to have on hand.
And for any viewers, rather than panicking and having to stop, what I'll do, if you send me the list of the items, I will list them in the parts below so people can see the various bits. And if I've got the time, I'll try and find some Amazon links to them as well for people. But if not, they can just look for the name. So, because I think that's people, because I think that's the thing that people worry about, is they see it as such a restrictive way of eating that they want to explore other areas of within that area that you can. So you're providing a load of ingredients there that makes it that little bit more easier to not worry about being bland all the time. On my birthday in August, I made myself a tiramisu with mascarpone cheese and full fat cream. The only little treat I had is I did scrape a little bit of dark chocolate on top, and that was absolutely delicious to try. So if you like
Oh,
sweet things, that's one way around it.
unsweetened dark chocolate is something I also keep on hand, because you can, if you can make your own chocolates essentially if you use a, approved sweetener. And it's, to me, that's important, because if you're having a craving for something and you might be tempted by something else, it's good to have those things on hand. Not everyone can be 1,000% disciplined and avoid everything. So it's like I said in my first podcast, you need to know yourself. You need to know, am I able to just not cave into a craving, or should I have something available? And to me, it's just to have things available in the rare instance that I need something.
There's three stages, in my opinion, of how this type of lifestyle works. So the initial stage is the fat burning. So you're more disciplined, you're more stricter with it to get into ketosis and create that fat burner scenario. Then you kind of get a plateauing period, I believe. And that's when I discovered where I started getting oxalate dumping and things like that. And some weird things like that were happening to me. And obviously, once I'd studied it and understood it, I was able to take the action. And like now in the third stage is where it is maintenance rather than, and as you say, not being so strict and allowing other things or experimenting a little bit, because I think we are all our own experiment on ourselves, and you would eat something different the same as I would eat, and would react in a different way. So it's trial and error, really.
I definitely agree. And I may eat something and, have a reaction to it, or become bloated, or or start to feel inflamed, whereas someone else could eat the same thing and not experience the same thing. So I've, after, going into my 8th year, I pretty much know and have confidence in the things that I can kind of cheat with. And it's funny to think of something like blueberries and walnuts and heavy cream being a cheat food. But but when you've been eating the way I have, and been as strict as I have, which is not as strict as some other people may be, it sounds funny to consider that a cheat food, but that's the kind of thing that I would eat if I was having a sweet craving. Most of the time would be, berries, walnuts, pecans, things like that.
Yeah, and you're still quite active in the gym, etc. Is that correct? So
Yes,
how do you plan your meals around gym activity? Do you eat beforehand? Do you eat after? What is your schedule on there?
I do work out fasted, so there's at least 5 or 6 hours between when I have lunch and then I work out. So I work out fasted. I feel like I have more energy when I do. And so I lift weights fasted, but I will have like I will have creatine and water prior to my workout and during my workout. So I'll drink like a creatine and water blended, and that I'll drink like, my workout takes about 35 to 45 minutes, not including if I do cardio on the same day. So that's really all I'll be consuming prior to my workout. I find I have a lot of energy to work out fasted, and I do work. work out in the gym 3 times a week. And I usually will walk between 10 and 15 miles per week. When it gets a little colder and I'm doing my walking inside on a treadmill, I probably walk a little bit less, but I do try to keep that up as cardio, walking and running.
And after your workout, when do you then decide to eat?
Probably about an hour to 2 after my workout is when I'll have my last meal of the day. And which I don't remember if I talked about the amount of protein that I try to eat, but I follow the method where you're eating approximately 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, which for me is about 120 pounds is my ideal body weight. My healthiest body weight between 120 and 125 pounds, considering that I'm trying to build muscle mass. I'll try to get close to that amount of protein, as close as I can as possible. So I'll try to make sure that I do eat some protein in the morning in the form of eggs, sometimes ham or bacon. And then I'll try to, at lunch, eat enough so that I'm not trying to make up for too much protein at dinner, if that makes any sense. Trying to
Yeah.
spread it out throughout the day.
And your husband, is he also on the same diet, or do you have to do separate meals? Is that a challenge?
It's not challenging for us. He very much does eat mostly the way I do. He does incorporate more carbohydrates in the form of, I believe he does eat oatmeal. He eats, what are considered to be healthier carbohydrates, and he does avoid breads and starches generally. But he basically does eat the same way I do. But he's very healthy.
So that makes that a lot easier for you. So that's good. So is there anything else that you want to update us with, or an area you want to explore while I've got you online?
I just wanted to once again encourage people to try it. Just if, and I know some people have reservations because you do hear some negative things about, even low carb eating, which is silly to me. But in carnivore does seem very extreme to a lot of people. But if you really, listen to podcasts like this, ask questions, reach out to people who do it for advice. I do recommend, if you're not in a good place health wise, just explore your options as far as diet. Maybe start out with low carb. Maybe if you can try keto, try keto. If you feel great with it, become even more restrictive, because I know when I did, I felt even better doing that. Also, I did want to touch a little bit on supplements. I supplement vitamin D3. Recently, I've started calcium because of my age. I do take magnesium. This is really a great brand. It's Calm. This is good for sleep, and it's good for regularity for people who need that. And so I just did want to mention that I do take those supplements as well as creatine, and I do supplement salt also. I think we talked about that a little bit the last time we spoke. This is an element. I don't endorse the company. I don't sponsor them, but I think this is a great product. This is electrolytes. So this has salts in it, which is really good. And it's also a little bit of a treat too. It's flavor. I put it in my coffee. So I just did want to mention those things because I don't think I talked about supplements before.
So one interesting thing I found is, and I don't know if it's a male thing as opposed to a female thing or not, but the hair on my beard, a lot of my grey is going and it's coming back darker. I don't know if it's a bit longer than I normally have. It's my winter coat, I like to say. But have you noticed any significant changes like that?
Um, I think the most significant thing like that is just the reduction of age spots in my skin, I would have to say. And just, I think like the elasticity in my skin I've seen an improvement in that area. So like age spots, I used to have some skin tags I don't have anymore. Don't really have any grays yet. So I don't know if I've been able to maybe I've been able to stave off some gray hairs, but I have no proof of that because I haven't had it yet.
That's very good. Very, very good. So honestly, Meredith, it's great catching up with you. It's been absolutely brilliant. If you can send me that list of items that you've quickly shown, I will add them to this description below. So if people are interested, they can find out a bit more about them. As you say, Amazon is a very good place to go to because obviously what you find in the States, you can get here in the UK. I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you again, Carl.